News Panorama is a TV news magazine program that gives you the story behind the story.
It tells the stories the way they should be told by capturing the larger scale.
It deals with people's deep feelings on issues that, when brought to the fore, ultimately educates, informs and entertains.
News Panorama. Capture the larger scale.
Child training is a duty that is delicate, mandatory and very stressful. While we all hope that it produces the best results for the future, that the child meets all our expectations and in turn takes care of us at old age. In most African homes, male children are considered as breadwinners of the family, and so educating them is always made easy. But the question is, do families really train and mold their male children for the preparation of a better society and marriage, like the mold the girl child? The exclusion of the male child manifests itself in increased conflict in the law, an illiterate population, increased crime, and low self-esteem. This has led to violence, truancy, and drug abuse. This is the alternative way the boy child has resorted to as payback to the society. Security of the state and country, youth unemployment, and on the spot are in our lineup for this week. Welcome and thanks for joining me on the program. I am Josephine Efanga.
News Panorama. Capture the larger scale.
If you have just tuned in, you are watching News Panorama. International Day of a Boy Child is a day that should remind us of our collective guilt in neglecting the boy child, which has led to the spate of insecurity bewildering the nation from all angles and in all directions. As we celebrate the International Day of a Boy Child this year, it is important to reflect on the dangers of neglect of the boy child and look towards taking definite actions to addressing the neglect of the boy child. Efiowane Ekpeita brings the story.
The boy child or the male offspring of any family is often regarded as the heir of the family with prospects to sustain the ancestral lineage, especially in the African setting. Over centuries, the boy child has been acknowledged to be stronger, independent, and credited with the ability to face all life's challenges, leaving little or no room for weakness as well as uncertainty of what is expected of them as compared to the girl child. To celebrate the boy child, the United Nations in 2018 officially adopted May 16 every year to focus attention on the boy child. Jerome Tilaksin, a lecturer in history at the University of West Indies, is the founder of International Day of Boy Child. According to him, the day is not to be marked as one to oppose the focus on the girl child, but rather to complement it. But sadly, the day receives little credence or attention, and not much is done to celebrate the boy child, as not many even know a knowledge about this day. A cross-section of respondents in Calabar noted that proper institutions and apparatus have not been fully enforced to not just celebrate but also protect the boy child.
Boys that are the ones to go and bring the wife. You know, women, their child, the family, if your own daughter is not good enough for marriage, no man will come in. Yes, they will just look at her and pass away. But for a male child, they will sit down to think, to figure out the one that will be suitable for their own taste. They will not just want to rush and carry anything as a wife. That's why much preparation, more attention is to the girl to mold a better wife, because men are the ones that will go around to choose. Men choose women, not women choose men. And most of them also think that they don't need responsibility. Most men say they don't like responsibility. That's why most of them are not being prepared for marriage.
We see the girl child as being a vital vessel. The girl child is to be more stronger than the girl's child. And celebrating the girl's child is a kind of encouragement, encouraging them to put in their best, to kill complex problems in their lives and make them have a sense of belonging in their family. why the boy child is not prepared for marital life as the girl child is. It's the boy child that is going to get married. It's going to pick a woman to be his life partner, and we feel most of the marital stuff is from the girl child. And going biblically, you will see that God didn't take time to prepare them for marriage, for marital life. Rather, He took time to prepare Eve for marital life.
Others urge the government and families to pay more attention to their male children, as they, as well as the girl child, needs care, tending, proper attention and training, because they also face dangers and are vulnerable to abuse and other vices.
More emphasis is placed on the female than the male child. You know, talking about even things like rape, they place it more on the female, and the guys are always left out. I think that's probably the reason. You know, bulk of the thing is done by the guy. The guy needs to, first of all, before you think of preparing for marriage, you need to make sure you establish yourself. But for the girl child, I just feel the thing that that is what they just need to do. Let me just prepare my mind towards getting married, and that is all.
Okay.
Always be afraid of responsibilities. You know, in girls they will quick marry them, but in male child, responsibilities like school fees, like marriage responsibilities, you do not like to involve yourself in all those things. That's why they always stay long to marry.
Okay. The boy child, although seen as a stronger vessel, can be vulnerable to a certain degree. He also needs proper love, attention, care, and patience in training, just as the girl child. This brings us to the question, how much do you know about your boy child? How aware are you of the troubles he is facing? To what extent is your awareness of boy-child abuse, and how are you willing and prepared to curb it? The time is now for us to take a stand for the boy child. Train him, protect him, love him, motivate him for a better society for all of us. Ifyowan Equita reporting for News Panorama.
The security of citizens of any state remains the primary purpose of the government, which is why the vast improvement of security within every state in the nearest possible future should be a necessity. Insecurity reduces economic growth resulting from faults in production and a shift towards domestic markets. Blessing Basi tells us more.
No doubt, the intercommunal violence between Ovonum and Ofatira communities under Obubra local government area, among other insurgent attacks ranging from kidnapping, violence, crime, carjacking, and armed robberies, have threatened the state sovereignty in diverse ways. These include disrupting education, farming, businesses, and other socio-economic activities. Apart from displacing people from their homes, this series of violence have also contributed to the rising number of out-of-school children currently put at over 10 million globally, leading also to the displacement of about 500 children in the state. Security is simply the freedom from risk or danger. This definition is extended by defining risk as a potential loss resulting from the balance of threat, vulnerabilities, countermeasures, values, amongst all. Research has it that the insecurity in some parts of the state calls for a change of tactics in combating banditry, kidnapping, and other forms of criminality. The launching of Operation Okwaku by Governor Benayade has not only encouraged the law enforcement agencies to arrest and prosecute any person associated with illegal flow of arms in the state, but has also made the state safer and more conducive for economic activities.
Your Excellency, sir.
Thank you very much. May I use this opportunity to thank all the service commanders of the Nigerian security and military forces here in Calabar and Cross River State in general. May I commend you for all your gallant efforts so far. Let me put it on record that Cross River State statistically remains the safest state in Nigeria. However, as a state, we're used to the culture of zero kidnapping, zero cultism, and zero robbery. in recent past, the increasing numbers of crime within the Niger Delta and the country as a whole, arising from the difficulty orchestrated by NSAS as well as COVID-19, which brought a general poverty and general hardship upon the entire world. So Nigeria is not an exception. Given that background, a lot of our citizens of Nigeria, have taken to criminality as a means of livelihood. But as a country, we have a responsibility to our youth. As leadership and as governor, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and all of us in leadership position have the emotional sensibility, emotional intelligence to recognize the fact that this country will be handed over to the younger people. If that is true, it is our responsibility to protect and take care of the young people. But you must give us an opportunity. Nobody in position of government will be happy to see a young man or woman on the street without a job. Unfortunately, the falling prices of the oil and the attendant consequence has dealt a great blow on our economy. Unfortunately, given that background, we have seen rising levels of crime. But as a government, we have to be responsible. You recall that at the NSAS protest, Cross River was very cautious with the use of kinetic solution to address the challenges of hoodlums and the looting. But today, the instruction is very clear from Abuja. You must deal decisively with any form of criminality. You must deal decisively with any form of banditry, cultism, kidnapping of any form. Let this therefore be a strong message to every Cross-Riverian and non-indigenous alike, that as far as you're resident in Cross River State, today is the end of that criminality. Today is the end of that armed robbery, that banditry must end today. We have received the instructions from federal government, and I have supported and I stand strong with all my military men and the police that they must comply with the obligations, instructions, and orders of the Inspector General of Police and the Commander-in-Chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces, that Cross River State must be made a safe haven. Recall that Cross River State is a maritime state, sharing boundary with Cameroon, recognizing the Amazonian armed conflict that has bedeviled the Cameroon for some time, leading to an ingress of militants from over 33 immigrant routes into Cross River State. Occasioned also and exacerbated by the increasing level of militancy within the piracy around the Gulf of Guinea. All of this has put a lot of pressure on Calabar in particular, recognizing also that the federal government has put so much effort in protecting the pipelines. Ultimately, Calabar indeed became the safe haven for criminals. With a great effort by our great policemen and our military officers, arresting, detaining, and prosecuting so many. But because few have happened, our people are impatient because they recognize that Calabar is the tourism capital of Nigeria, and therefore we can't afford an incident.
During his recent courtesy visit on Governor Ayade by the Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, he stressed the prevailing calm to Governor Ayade's approach to security challenges. The IG commended the state of the Nigerian Police Command for its motivation and zeal put in policing in the state.
The internal security space is very wide, very open, both in land and especially here where you have also the water. There is indeed need for the collaboration of all the security agencies. Among the challenges of the command that the CP railed out, I have been able to bring assistance in 1 or 2 areas. I promise him 10 new vehicles.
The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres hinted that insecurity is causing grave human suffering, both directly and indirectly, especially in conflict, which has led to increase in poverty, food insecurity, and reducing access to education, healthcare, as well as improving severe constraints on people's ability to realize their potential. He advised that youth, peace, and security should be more widely reflected in the mandate of special political missions and peacekeeping operations.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I thank Japan for using its presidency of the Security Council to focus on the increasingly complex drivers of armed conflict and instability. And let me also express my appreciation to the government and people of Japan for their hospitality during my visit to the country last week. I would like to make three main points today. First, we are seeing not only a quantitative, but also a qualitative change in threats to international peace and security. The perils of nuclear weapons are again front and center, with tensions higher than they have been since the end of the Cold War. Climate change has emerged as a threat multiplier. Water scarcity is a growing concern as demand for fresh water is projected to grow by more than 40% by the middle of the century. Inequality and exclusion feed frustration and marginalization. Cybersecurity dangers are escalating as some of the same advances in technology that have generated so many gains have also made it easier for extremists to communicate, broadcast distorted narratives of grievance, recruit followers, and exploit people. And the number of armed conflicts has declined over the long term, but in the Middle East and parts of Africa, conflicts have surged. And conflicts are becoming more intractable. They are longer, more than 20 years on average, meaning that the people they displace are spending ever-increasing amounts of time away from their homes and communities.
Section 14B of the 1999 Nigerian Constitution has mainly clearly states that the security and welfare of the people should be the primary purpose of the government, and as such, constitutional provision must be observed in the breach. In all guaranteeing, security is generally a collective responsibility. So if you see something, say something intelligently. Was the RBC News Panorama, Blessing Basi reporting.
Up next is On the Spot with the Permanent Secretary, Special Services, Governor's Office, Sir Alfred Mboto. He speaks on how violent conflict can destroy infrastructure and assets, undermine investment, and can contribute to unemployment, and the measures put in place by the state government to ensure the safety and peace of its citizens.
Welcome to On the Spot on News Panorama. Today we are here with the Permanent Secretary, Special Services, Governor's Office. You're welcome, sir, to the program.
Good morning, welcome.
Okay, sir, so can you lead us into the reason for the recent communal crisis between Obonum and Ofotura? Because there are many stories around the social media. Let's hear from you, sir.
The actual thing that caused what played off, but that was a very emergency. We had a distress call from around that community. I think calls from both communities saying that the youths were in the farm struggling to land together, and that it was possible of leading to crisis, which instructed this office deployed police to make sure that it was not snowball to anything. And unfortunately, that was the money. When on that very Wednesday, it was the TPO that I sent. I went in there. I think he was able to discuss with the people. Thursday, the government played on during that night. I had the call that they have started fighting. And the process, lives and loss have lost. Houses burned down. Even farm produce. Crops in the farm also destroyed. The government, because of the enormous damage that has taken place, the state government only had to introduce and announce a curfew that prevented every person from moving from 6 to 6. So with the curfew, the tension has come down, the place, calm is returning, and people got some property and wanted to badly damaged, as they have been banned. But I cannot categorically tell the extent to which, the degree and the number, because I'm yet to get the report from the security agencies deployed for the purpose. But from the interviews and intelligence, the
land matter that was within one family that spans between the two villages. The family of Akara in Onum and the family of another mayor, mayor in Ofatura, but all of them from one parent. Why some settled in Ofatura, the other was settled in Onum, and all of them having one common land. And it is the same family that are struggling. Outrightly, the matter wasn't a matter of Onum versus Ofatura. It was just the one family matter. But in the process of destroying their fellow crops, it extended to areas that were not included in the problem. And at the end of it all, when it resulted into burning houses, even the houses that are burned, the majority of the houses that are burned are not even members of the family. So from that, that sparked the one man engaged the two communities into that fracas. However, the government didn't follow this out. First, we immediately made, as I said, in fact, when the security agencies arrived to the scene, they dominated the area, and all that was planned that was supposed to totally devastate the entire area or put on that control. The government is making everything possible to making sure that perpetrators of that are found, they are identified and brought to.
Okay, sir. So observably, between the months of February and May, we are always experiencing communal crisis, which practically have been linked to famine season. The worry here is, why hasn't communities be proactive measures or on rare alert in this season to avert incidences like this reoccurring?
That's a good question we're supposed to answer by community, because I know that from the Special Service Office, the conscientization have been made separately every year, year in, year out, on how people should coexist together, especially during famine season. We tell them the reason why they should adopt the method where the community sits together and plan how they have to use the available land so that they don't know it's all into struggles. Because most of what happened is because of that inability to manage the land very well, so that every other person who has interest in the land has a share of what to do. So we have done the sensitization. I think it's a transitional institution that should come in and help very much again. As an office, so sensitization is always all year round. We always visiting and telling, conscientizing people to know that fighting over land is a waste, because if you fight over land, that land will not be productive, or you will not be free, there will be no peace in such area. So you cannot, even if you say you are the person who won the fight, you can't farm there, because you will not have freedom and peace to farm. And so the traditional institution need to do more to assist government in coping those, because now, even when some alerts are gotten, and the government decides to send security people to go in there and do some arrests, the people are not ready to even prove, to identify their sons and daughters that engage themselves into the crimes. So they need to do more. Because I will believe that if any person commits a criminal act, it's from a village, there's no how. Villagers, they will not know who committed this. If they are sincere to help government, they carry such people that report to government, so that government can. And when such arrests are done in time, many of these things will be prevented.
Okay, so sir, we are aware that when there is curfew, there is kind of economic issues. Now there is curfew imposed on the two communities, throwing the people into hardship. Are there any interventions to caution the effects of this on the life of the people?
The curfew is 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. You see how some of that was before you walk. It is meant to, whenever a curfew is implemented, it is for the good of the people. But once you are denied access of movement, all those miscreants and all these people, the warriors, they are denied access, freedom from moving with their whatever they want to do. And, so the action will be there, but it is better. That action is better than allowing them to be free, because if you allow them to be free, even trying to stop, because the security men cannot cover every area at the same time.
Okay, so it means that there is nothing the government can do right now to cushion the effect of the curfew on the people.
What government has done is that from 6, you are allowed from 4 a.m. to 5:30, 5:35, or you are free to move to come in and stay from this other period, because that's the period government is really using, the security agencies are using to really investigate, to find out who has done what are kept, this and that. So for me, it's a deterrent. It's something that's to serve as a deterrent. So there's no need you thinking of how
to cushion the effects.
No, I think the time after maybe a week, and they find out that the people are really cooperating, how to making sure that they embrace peace. The government reduces the time.
Okay, sir. So these villages are headed by clan heads and other chiefs. Would you say that these people have not actually discharged their duty properly? Because it's on social media that your office or have suspended one of the clan heads. Is it because they have not been able to actually deliver on their mandates as clan heads and chiefs of this community, sir?
I've told you when I was speaking, I've told you that we need, when I talked of the traditional institutions, that's what I was talking about. They need to do more. But I'm not aware, apart from the Inco, where the governor sees the syndicates of the traditional rulers were there. As of now, I think they need to do more, because these people are actually carrying out these acts. They are not from heaven. They don't come from heaven now. They are all human beings living within the same community. And you cannot say they are spirits. They are not spirits. So if any person commits a crime, it's good for such a person to be named out. But if a good clan head, as the 19 say, chiefs and that, they have a good administrative structures on how they manage their people. Once any crime now, like a crime is committed, the person who committed a crime should be fetched out, should be easily identified and said, but this is not the case now. So,
okay, sir, so as one who has been in the forefront of security in the state, what would you prefer as a solution, given the situation we have now, to ensure that this kind of crisis do not reoccur in the state? Because communal crisis shouldn't be something that we talk about in Cross River State. It should be something of the thing of the past, not something we continue to talk about in Cross River State.
There is nothing that is as good as whatever, for instance, if a family is approaching. We have advised right from the word go. All the communities, you need to gather all your people together and come. This year, the family season is beginning, and this is what we don't want any community to do. Education and dialogue on, all the citizens of the inhabitants of every place on how they should farm that year will be very, very helpful. Because if that's not done, every person goes in without following the rules. And that's what, when you break those rules, that's what causes problems. Because traditionally, the question is, why is it that for a long time before now, the communal clergy were not rampant? Why? Because they were always following the traditional way. You want to go and farm in another person's place, you consult the person who wants that place. So, but look at that. So I will still recommend going back to how it was before, where before they go into farming, the families are gathered. We want to go into farming this year. How do we farm? Where do we farm? Which area is supposed to be farmed and which area is supposed to be left? Once that is done, I think we'll have problems. And two, if there are boundaries, please don't cross the boundary of another person. Don't go and farm in another person's farmland, except you have gotten permission and approval from the owner of that farmland for you to do. If that is not done, because whatever they say they are struggling farmland, because they will say this other person has gone to farm across the boundary, you are supposed to farm and stuff. So those are things that the traditional institution can quickly handle very well. As you are doing this, if you are going for this family system, please, you are warned. Whoever crosses, the community should rise up against such a person. Whoever crosses without authority from the person who owns the land, because there's no person you go and say, I want you to give me a person of land that they cannot give. So that's one way that can make every to reduce and in fact drive away communal collection of land.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. It is a call for everybody. All hands must be on deck. Paramount rulers, clan heads, royal fathers, the time is now for us to reunite again. Cross River State is tired of communal crisis in the state. There is need for oneness, for proper growth and development in the state. Keep a date with us. I remain Josephine Efanga.
That is all we have on our lineup this week. We hope to be back same time next week. I am Josephine Efanga.